Hello, good evening, and Vanakkam Chennai. My name is Dorothy, and I'm connecting live from Berlin, Germany. And we're so excited to host today's Recorem Talks in association with Chennai Institute of Technology in India. I've unfortunately never been to India. My partner has for 6 months though, and I know that I have a lot to catch up. But I heard about like Chennai, the Marina Beach, Vijay, and yes, of course, the CSK. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I have a lot to catch up, but I'm looking forward for it and also for meeting you guys. So welcome. Also, of course, I'm aware of the pandemic, and I hope that you all are safe and healthy, that you and your families feel good. So this is the most important thing. And I know that the world is going through a tough challenge right now, but I think the only thing we can do is stay kind to each other and be aware. So we will be able to get out of this stronger and tougher and look into the future. And speaking of the future, I will now come back to the purpose why we are all here. We've come here because of Recorem Talks, right? And I wouldn't be a good host if I would not introduce the platform to you. So now that you heard of the word Recorem so many times, I'll just give you a quick little introduction. So with the rapid evolution and a bifurcation of industries and domains, the demand for skilled talent is at its all-time peak, and top companies, they obviously prefer to discover passive job seekers who frequently attend and upskill from professional events. And Recorem helps attendees discover jobs in professional events like conferences, webinars, and meetups across 70 plus industries and verticals. So I'll just go like straight into business, and I will show you how it works. So let's show you how Recorem.com works, and let's go into the website. So here you see it. This is how it would be if you would enter Recorem.com. And we would go on to the right side to explore events. And here in the middle, you see our Recorem Talks from Chennai Institute of India. So you're clicking here on the spectator mode button. And here you see our viewing gallery right now. Do you see me here in the corner? There you go. Definitely you see me moving. On the right side, you see the live notifications. So if there are like new applicants joining or new applications going through. And if we scroll down a little down to the live analytics, we see clearly that we have more than 50 job opportunities and more than 300 attendees. That's very nice. And right now live, we have a total audience of 26. Welcome. And 6 companies joining right now, and total jobs of 31. 31 jobs you can apply for. That's great. And I also see new joiners. So during this event, there will be new companies joining and new attendees. And at the end of this event, we will going to revisit this account and also find out how many of you all got pre-qualified for these jobs. So stay tuned. I'm very excited to see what will happen during this event. So all the best, folks. And now let's go to the other exciting thing. Let's log in as a job seeker. And the good thing about Recorem is they love, like job seekers love Recorem because the jobs on Recorem are always fresh and verified, and the competition is restricted to the attendees of this event. So basically, you guys can call yourself VIPs right now. And let's head over to the job opportunities, because this is the most exciting thing to see what jobs you match for. And so as you can see, our unique skill-based matching engine shows pre-qualified jobs to ensure that you don't waste time on jobs that don't match your skills, obviously. And last but not least, one of my favorites, what we can see, like right now you have the job opportunities here, and after you applied, is because we generally know like how frustrating it is to apply for a job. We put a lot of energy in applying for a job where we think we have like the right skills for it, and sometimes we never hear back. So Recorem is putting an end to that, and all job applicants on Recorem get a guaranteed feedback within less than 70 hours. So after the event ends. So I think that's a really, really great opportunity for all you guys. So I hope, that's actually it. I hope you had I could explain well how easy it is to get on Recorem.com and how easy it is to apply, but also for the job seekers. So today Recorem Talks, like I said before, brings industries one step closer to the educational institutions. I wish I would have had that back then when I graduated. And our unique concept is engineered to empower students with international exposure on the industry landscape and insights on the evolution and transformation of skills, delivered by industry experts, along with the opportunity to discover remote and on-site internships, permanent and contract jobs. So I would say this talk is kind of like an all-inclusive package for you guys. And all of you are talented individuals belonging to computer science and electrical. And since our topic is machine learning and embedded engineering, we have many exciting AI and engineering opportunities waiting for you to be unlocked. With that, I would say let's give a huge shout to the companies who are present here. So if anyone is present here, maybe someone can type like a quick yay in the chat box that you're also all excited to be joining here. So also, without any further ado, I would just say, let's get started. And I am really thrilled to introduce our first speaker to you. His name is Shubham Bhowmik, and he is an ML expert from Mumbai, India. Hello, Shubham. Welcome to Recorem Talks.
Hi, Dorothy.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. As good as we can be in the pandemic.
Wonderful. So you're good?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So the audience can get to know you a little better, I have like a quick short game for you. I will be asking you a question and you will just pick one of the two answers. It will be very quick. Are you up for it?
Let's go for it.
Perfect. Wonderful. So what do you prefer, beaches or mountains?
Mountains.
Mountains. I think I heard mountains, right? Like breathing a little fresh air up in the mountains. So I think I heard that you like traveling, so that's actually a good choice. And I also heard that you are into outdoor sports. So would you rather pick cricket or football?
I prefer football.
Football. All right. And last but not least, yeah, in today's time, sometimes you cannot really pick what we like more, books or movies.
Right now, I would want to watch a movie.
Movies. Yeah, to sit back a little and relax and let everything flow in. Wonderful. Right now, I also prefer movies. So Yeah, glad to get to know you, Shabam. So let's actually move on to why we're actually here, because we would love to hear your perspective of your work and NLP. So I would say the floor is all yours, and we're happy that you can introduce yourself to us.
Right. Thank you, Dorothy. So I'm working with JP Morgan Chase based out of Mumbai. I'm an associate vice president of data science here. And we are engaged in the retail banking side right now. And we are working across all the lobs in the retail banking, be it credit cards, be it deposits, collections, and all the products that Chase has. And we are trying to create the bank of the future for the 64 million customers that JP Morgan Chase has. Having said that, the domain obviously is banking, and our tech stack is obviously ML. So before before we got into ML and before Chase has started investing heavily in ML, most of the work here were mostly into statistical learning models and ad hoc analysis. But now with cloud computing and AWS becoming partners with JP Morgan Chase, everything and even departments which are not generally doing machine learning, for example, risk, they have also started investing heavily in machine learning models now. Prior to Chase, I've worked with Capgemini and TCG Digital, and in both of those companies, I have had client-facing roles in analytics and ML, where I've consulted with top companies and tried to get them on an analytics maturity roadmap so that they can have cutting-edge technology and cutting-edge analytics to support their businesses in real time. Also, while in TCG Digital, we had designed India's number one, NASSCOM's number one analytics platform. It's called MQ. So that's all about me.
Wonderful. So, then let's go to my first question. What or how would a day in your life look like? If you get up early in the morning, how does your day continue?
Right. So I think I'm lucky to have one of the what I believe is the kind of role that everyone should aim for. So most of the time, analytics and data science professionals don't have a direct impact to business, or they cannot inform the roadmap and the business benefits. But I have that unique role. So on a daily basis, my day would look different each day, is what I'm saying. So on certain days, I would be looking for opportunities within the business, meet with senior business stakeholders, understand what's working, what's not working. At the same time, having access to all the data of the business, I will be looking at those data sets, and I would also try to figure out from the data if there is an opportunity to improve the business, for example, to cut costs or to increase revenue, right? And I work very closely with senior stakeholders, managing directors of JP Morgan Chase, the chief operating officers of the world, and to make sure that we are creating projects, ML projects, which deliver the biggest bang for the investment. Because as we know, ML projects require investments, and it is very critical that we are solving the right problem, we are solving the biggest problem, and we deliver hard dollars to the firm. So, in short, my daily routine, there's nothing called a daily routine. Every day is different because it's all about finding opportunities and delivering hard dollars to the firm.
Mhm. Okay, so quite exciting. Um, and so also like the next very important question, like what exactly is natural language processing and why is it important?
Right. So if you think about it, um, every time we go on the social media, every time we call the bank, for example, every time we write an email to the bank, every communication is between a human and another human in some natural language, be it text, be it voice, be it speech. So all of these are a rich source of information that if companies are not able to tap into, they would lose out on understanding what the customer wants, whether the customer is facing a problem in a certain area. So
Mhm.
that's where natural language processing comes in. So if you look at if you look at a company who is unable to do that, and if you could imagine, I'm sure you can imagine some companies who don't have chatbots, who don't have the ability to mine data. Um, for example, you write complaints on Twitter, some companies would immediately catch on to it and would get back to you and fix the problem, while some companies would just not respond back to you. So the difference in the
Mhm.
customer experience there is huge, and that can result in customer retention or customer attrition. The cost is that big, right? So the ability to understand natural language processing, not just on social media, but every time there is a touch point with a company, for example, a phone call or an email or a text message, all the channels, including social media, is critical for the company's response in creating a great customer experience. Because as we know, the millennials, who are the biggest group of customers now,
Mhm.
are very particular about what they want. They want a great customer service, great customer experience, and sometimes great companies are able to create an omni-channel experience, meaning they're able to create a consistent customer experience across different channels. Now, that's only possible if you have great NLP investments in it, and you are able to communicate with the customer using human language, be it text, voice, or any other method, um, having consistency across all these channels, and to be able to understand millions of customers. Any big company would have millions of customers, and to be able to understand that and respond to each customer is not possible to be done by a human man force, right? You just cannot have so many people sitting out there and replying to your customers. It is the operating cost would drive the company down, right? So you need great NLP solutions, so that you have systems who create a great customer experience consistently across all channels, and make every customer touch point a wow experience.
So in the end, it's about a better communication with the customer, and yeah. So yeah, very good. I think that's a very interesting subject and a very important subject, communication and like making the customer happy. So then the next interesting topic would be like, let's talk about the evolution of machine learning over the last decade. So how was NLP used in 2010, for example?
Right. So, and I'll try to make this a little broader and just tackle it, not just NLP. Let's look at machine learning as a whole. So, if you look at how things were in 2000s, you would have, now let's look at two different kind of companies. Product companies like Facebook and Google, who are pioneering machine learning, and at the point, and then they are the only companies who are really doing machine learning in a big way. And then there are service companies and banks and so many other traditional businesses which really are not doing machine learning in the way we know it today. Uh, if at all they're doing it, they would be doing more like statistical analysis, right? Plain Jane logistic regression, or at the max, you have the Max time series models, right? So you have traditional models being used in traditional businesses, and the internet startups were trying to disrupt the whole business environment using recommendation systems in 2010. And starting 2010, what became very prevalent in the industry is deep learning. Now that was a game changer, right? Deep learning is possible only because of hardware advancements that we brought in post 2010. And that is a huge deal. If you look at Google Maps, if you look at image recognition, if you look at how Google Photos identifies every separate individual in your photo gallery and creates thumbnails of them, and you could find people, and you don't have to go in and manually identify people, but Google Photos would do it for you. Facebook would find out who could be a potential friend, and you've all heard those stories that Facebook has connected people who were friends 10 years ago, and then Facebook's recommendation got them connected. So these are cases of deep learning, which you have probably millions of variables per person, per row, and then you would have the ability to have neural network models and recommendation systems working in heavy infrastructure investments to be able to deliver those results in near real time. If you think Netflix, how personalization, how Spotify, again personalization, they're very sticky apps because they personalize the experience in real time. The moment you hover over a movie or watch a movie, they're able to understand exactly what kind of preferences you have, and they hook you onto the application. So if you had to summarize the journey over the period of time, uh, traditional models to machine learning models to deep learning models, but at the same time, over the years, the focus has shifted from structured data and more into unstructured data. For example, if you think about it, uh, news articles, for example, if you in a day there are probably millions of news articles published, and Google is able to aggregate all the news of a relevant topic at the click of a button in real time for you. That's possible because of natural language processing, right? It is not possible, not humanly possible, that there is somebody sitting out there and tagging every news that is published by every major news agency, and tagging it, okay, this is sport and this is politics and so on and so forth. And so Google does a great job of, it's a great example of how NLP is. And obviously, the post 2010 or more closer to now, we have this whole NLP and deep learning capabilities have reached beyond the product companies, and now traditional companies have started doing this same thing and started leveraging deep learning and NLP to make sure that they are not lagging behind and are making very heavy investments. So they need not only the investments in infrastructure but also in manpower, and that I think is a great opportunity for students to enter that field now.
And how is machine learning expected to evolve by 2015? And what was accomplished?
Right. I think 2015, that was a time when there were a lot of hype on machine learning. A lot of people thought this is the magic bullet, and they could solve a lot of things, and all you need to do is throw data at some neural network models and you would solve it. But things started changing. I think one of the major things that changed is our access to infrastructure. Though Amazon AWS started early 2000s, right? But in 2015, you would have access to GPUs and Amazon AWS cloud computing. So any company in the world at this point of time is able to run very, very big, deep neural network models, and is able to use the power of deep learning. And the future is, when you think AWS and Azure, you think pre-built models, right? You no longer have to build models from scratch and go through the research and development effort that Google and Facebook did early on, in early 2000s and 1990s. So that doesn't happen anymore. That doesn't need to happen anymore for new product companies. You can utilize pre-built models like BERT, like like Comprehend, that provided by AWS and Azure, and use these models to do NLP, because the very, very core of any NLP model is to have, whether do you have a huge data set which with of labeled data, right? Very few companies in the world have it. Facebook has it, obviously images. Google has it, all sorts of them. Google has not only maps, text, voice, YouTube videos, YouTube music. They have got all sorts of unstructured data, and they have a huge amount of um, label data that they have access to. And these are the companies that have invested in building pre-built models for you. So it's better that you take that and utilize those models, pre-built models, to fast track your development. I think that is the future, and that's in 2015. The disparity between expectation and reality was a lot, and especially the regulatory environment is such that models are being used in very core areas of human life. For example, medical science. For example, crime. For example, predicting volcanoes, you know, for managing manpower resources, for whether we should scheduling of airplanes and all. So you cannot go wrong there. For example, if you're some countries have models which identify speeding cars and from the number plate, so you cannot go wrong there, right? And we all know the regulators have grilled Facebook, Google many times over their use of data and the way they acquire data, right? So things from 2015, the governments and regulatory agencies, if you can think about GDPR for the European Union, and you can think about a lot of countries, and now India is very big into scanning companies, how they're using data, how they're collecting data, and as you can see, there's the expectation was by 2015, post 2015, models would be everywhere. But now modeling is now a very cautious and responsible affair, and not just a bunch of guys in the garage building fancy models. You've got regulation all over the place. You just can't get away with some wrong prediction anymore. So to summarize, I think the big change is going to be the focus on NLP and pre-built models in the future. But I think now, right now is the time that the hype cycle has reached its maturity and people naturally know what to expect.
Okay, and so, and what about 2020? How did the skills and jobs transform?
Right. So if you think about 2020, right now, the biggest word that you hear in the market is cloud computing, though it has been there for quite some time. But right now, that is the word and that is the buzzword, and it's for a reason, right? Um, there are a handful of product companies that have led the charge for deep learning and neural network modeling, and these are the internet giants, which are giants right now, the Facebooks and the Googles, the Amazons of the world. And these companies operate in an environment, in an area of business which is very lightly regulated. They are not regulated at all, right? And and the big shift into 2020 is you would find a lot of the traditional businesses, be it uh, for example, manufacturers, for example, be it a manufacturer like IFB, which is a manufacturer of washing machines and air conditioners, be it manufacturers of construction adhesives like Pidilite, be it a bank like JP Morgan Chase, and be it as any small bank in US, be it Bajaj Finance, for example, which is a non-bank financial corporation. Now, these companies, which operate in a very heavy regulatory scenario, this is in 2020, these are the companies that are very big on machine learning and AI and NLP, right? And that is the big change. And this brings with it the opportunity of a lot more jobs than it was in the past. And one of the biggest reasons people are moving into analytics, obviously, nobody wants to lose out on the great benefits, but also things like Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure, aka the cloud computing platforms, and made it so much more easier to set up the whole analytics and data science infrastructure. If you think about it, earlier, Google, if you would have heard, Google and Facebook have whole islands dedicated to servers so that they are able to process millions and trillions of data and give you results in a second. Now, for example, if you think about it, a bank in India, for example, HDFC, or a bank in Nordea banks, or if you look at UBS, if you look at JP Morgan Chase, the main business of these banks is not maintaining a data center, right? So your main business is banking, or your main business is to manufacture industrial adhesive, or industrial or manufacturing companies, or your manufacturer air conditioner. Now you don't want a huge investment on a server system which is going to cost you 24/7, whether you use it or whether you don't use it. So that's the magic of cloud computing. You pay as you go, you pay as much as you use, and the whole maintenance of that infrastructure is handled by AWS and Azure. So the fear of and the entry barrier, if you may call it, to enter data science and deep learning and AI and ML has reduced greatly for any company. Even a small-time app developer can utilize leverage an API that is present in Azure or AWS and build out an AI-friendly app, right? You can have AI features in its application. So that's how easy it has become. And that is one of the reasons you will notice a lot more job openings in traditional companies which erstwhile had never invested in AI. They would invest in analysts and statisticians who would look at the data and do A/B testing in a limited environment and mostly in structured data. But now you would find even a startup coming in and is able to do social media analytics and give you near real time customer service experience with chatbots on one end, and and social media bots replying to your messages instantly and things like that. So I think this is the future, and this is the big change, and this is a great positive change for all of us who are professionals in this field, because it opens up a lot more companies now have the position of chief analytics officer than 5 years ago, right? They would normally have an IT department and with some analysts, but now you have a chief analytics officer with an analytics roadmap, and that is very important.
So now let's look into the future. What do you think is going to be the hottest machine learning skill in 2025?
Right. I think it's an easy answer. I think most of us would have guessed by all the information I shared till now. It is going to be natural language processing and unstructured data, right? Um, when you if you look at the applications of the future, most of the structured analysis would be gone, right? And there would be a portion of the skills required in um, areas like risk analytics, where traditionally machine learning has not been used, because ML models, a lot of the most effective ML models are opaque in nature. So you don't know why the result is a certain way. And that's not great, because in risk, when you deny a loan to someone or you approve a loan to someone, you need to be able to justify, or you risk having a regulatory backlash. You risk having a lawsuit filed against you. You cannot have black box models. So one area is, um, you know, building machine learning models which are interpretable. That is the future for if you look at structured data. For example, there's something called shapely values, right? And you could use that to figure out if a model is able to explain the logic behind why it predicts a certain way. For example, shapely values will tell you if if the result of the risk analysis is you don't want to give the loan to someone, the reasoning is important, and shapely values allow you to do that. So JP Morgan Chase is currently experimenting in risk analytics for the first time using machine learning models. Right? That is a big change. That's a huge change. And if you think about it, the financial services market has undergone a big transformation in the last few years. Right? You've got so many more players than there used to be. Even Amazon, even Facebook, they are also in that game of payments, right? You've got non-bank financial corporations. You've got a bank. You've got Bajaj Finances, who offer no-cost EMIs, and there are so many other players. So risk analytics is a big thing in the future, 2025, and even now, right? So that's a structured data, and then the other part of the game is unstructured data. For example, uh, JP Morgan Chase has 64 million credit card customers, only credit card customers. And you can imagine the amount of phone calls we get. And Americans love using the phone. Um, a major chunk of the customer base is not millennials, but rather older people who prefer the phone channel. And imagine you getting so many phone calls and you are not able to provide summary statistics or summarize information. You would lose out basically on what the customer is mentioning, right? So, for example, out of the 100 million phone calls that we receive annually, if we are able to churn out from that information, what is the most common reason for dissatisfaction for a customer? Which banking processes are broken? What is the reason the customers are calling us? You will need to be able to use speech analytics and text analytics for that, right? And that's indispensable, and that is the future. Chatbots, again, if you think about chatbots, most of the companies use chatbots from a vendor rather than creating it. That's another big change. So if you're looking for NLP as a career, you have the Alexas of the world and the Siris of the world and the Google Assistants of the world, but they are not alone. There are so many other companies who are building out chatbots, and they are a great operational tool for the chief executive officer. If you think about it, the job of a chief executive officer is to run the company using the least amount of resources possible. And technologies like speech analytics and chatbots allow you to eliminate the humans involved in the process. And if you're able to do that, you will be able to run the company year over year using bots, more bots, and then you can utilize the human beings to do more valuable work. You can utilize the human beings, take them away from manual processing of checks, for example, and you have a bot which looks at the check and can evaluate whether the check is a fraud, right? Which is a very manual and mundane job. And then suddenly that human being is free and can be upskilled into a more sophisticated banking stream, for example, arbitrage. And then your manpower becomes more potent, and your overall revenue per employee goes up, and your operating cost goes down. So overall you become a more profitable company. And if you think about it, machines are inherently more consistent than human beings at the same time. So you would get better customer experience consistently across different channels, and that is a big benefit of using these technologies. So the future is financial analytics and risk analytics in using machine learning and deep learning, which has not happened, and a lot of natural language processing and a lot of video analytics and speech analytics. You would have the Fox analytics teams, do sports analytics, right? You would look at a game, and the game video would be fed into models, and the model would be able to identify the playing pattern of that particular, for example, a soccer player. Which positions is he good at? What's his weak points? What's his strong points? What's his game? How does he build up the game and all that? So sports analytics is huge. We know Barcelona does sports analytics a lot. They have chips on most of the players, and every player gets customized routines in terms of diet based on the data that is collected from his body. If you think about the smart watch that you wear that monitors every heartbeat, that is a great medical experiment that's going on. You're going to, in the future, you're going to see this data being used for your benefit. We don't see it now, but in 2025, we're going to see that.
And so I think you already talked a lot about and I think the freshers, the students coming fresh from university already have insights on what they need, but maybe you can go more into detail. What skills should a fresher, someone coming fresh from university, have to start a career in machine learning today? How do you think we can prepare for the future and upskill to be in demand when the market reaches 2025?
Right. So the good news is machine learning or data science, if you can call that broadly, has become a much more wider, vibrant field with so many sub roles in it, so many different roles in it. So if you're not someone who loves coding all the day, there is a role for you. If you're somebody who enjoys business more, there is a role for you, right? There is someone, if you're someone who is into more statistics but not coding, there is a role for you as well. And if you're more of a financial expert but you don't know coding, but you know statistics, there's a role for you too. So there's a very wide spectrum of roles available in data science right now. And if you want to learn machine learning, if you want to learn all the techniques, my advice to freshers is the expectation when any company hires a fresher, especially big companies, is we are going to train you. That is the attitude. So we want trainable resources, right? And one of the things that you could do to help yourself is be really good at solving very simple problems. A lot of people go into Kaggle and try to solve unstructured data and image processing, But if I ask them to solve a really simple logistic regression problem, they would not have the depth of knowledge in logistic regression to crack the problem. Now, that's not a great scenario for you, because image processing is a very niche and not all companies are doing it. So to give you more chance, um, be very good at solving simpler problems. And if you can solve more complex problems like image recognition and stuff like that, or natural language processing using BERT or cloud computing, then it's like a good to have. But the must have is you should know your logistic regression, you should know your support vector machines, you should know your random forests, you should be having the basics very, very clear, and not go too much into in a very deep, very involved deep learning model. It sounds cool if you know about it, but the reality is the bigger companies and the large part of the industry, the the larger quantities of work that's happening is solving simpler problems. And one of the biggest things that freshers, um, I don't like the term freshers, it just inherently is discriminating. I think when you're starting out as a professional, one of the biggest things is, expectation and reality for you. So one of the biggest things that my advice that I give to all the new joiners in my company is, understand the business first. If you understand the business, you would realize the business does not care how you're solving the problem. They care whether you are solving the problem using the least amount of resources possible. So if the problem is solved using a simple dashboard or a pivot table in Excel, do not try to build a machine learning model for it, because you're going to burn cash building it, and the whole profitability of the whole program goes for a toss. So you should always think in this way and try to build the best solution rather than build a solution which is academically the best model and try to always build only machine learning solutions. That is not going to happen in a career. You're not going to build machine learning models every day, every month, every week. You're going to build solutions using data, and it's going to take a wide variety of solutions, including ML, or sometimes it's just going to take a simple A/B test. But always have a focus on business impact.
Well, that's great. I mean, all the answers you like just gave us. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your amazing thoughts and insights. And I think it's really like a real plus to know a lot about the business as a student. So to know what you're going through, because I think it's always very much important to know where you're getting into, besides obviously the knowledge, but also how the business works. So really, thank you a lot, Shubham, for your thoughts. And I'm pretty sure that the audience really liked it as well, all your insights. And I'm actually quite excited about the questions we're going to ask you now from the audience. So I would say let's just move to the Q&A segment right away. And I have a few questions for you here. So this is actually what I like. So what does it take to become the successful data scientist? Very good question, actually.
Yeah, so I will thank you for the question. This is very important. I will start with the wrong answer. The wrong answer is uh, you are not going to be a successful data scientist if you know the most latest model. You're not going to be the most successful data scientist if you know the latest research paper. What's going to make you a successful data scientist is a little more complex than that. So think about it like four hats, right? A successful data scientist needs to wear four hats simultaneously. Hat number one is a hat of a businessman. So you got to think like the business owner, right? You're working for a bank like JP Morgan Chase. You got to think like you own the bank, right? So the moment you think like that, you're not thinking like a techie who's trying to solve technology problems with the most sophisticated ML model and going home proud that I built an ML model using neural network, which is X times deep, right? That's normally happens with a lot of people. But when you think business, you're thinking, what can I do to decrease the wait time when a customer calls the contact centers? We know that's a problem. We know we hate it. Every customer hates calling in the bank, and then you get in the IVR and you spend an eternity in the IVR. That's a problem. How do you solve that? That's your business hat, finding business problems to solve. Number two, the hat of a mathematician or a statistician, right? Um, so one of the major things data scientists are valued is because we don't give opinion, we give data backed evidence, right? So if you think like a mathematician is never going to give his assumption or an opinion. He's going to tell you, this is what I see in the data, these are my calculations, and basis this, these are the inferences. So you should, let's take this IVR example further and say you put on this statistician slash mathematician hat, and you look at the IVR wait times, the amount of time the customer spends in the IVR before he gets actually to a customer, and you find in the data that the times where the wait time has exceeded a particular minutes. For example, customers who waited more than 3 minutes are more likely to give you a dissatisfaction survey than customers who have a wait time of less than 3 minutes. Now, this is hard data that you can share with the business, and that's impactful, right? Um, the reason it's very important to do this is because you are taking ownership of your analysis and research. You're telling someone who probably has 10, 15 years of experience running the business, and you're walking into his room and telling him that, hey, you know what, you can run your business better if you do this. If you say this, you better have the right data, you better have the right analysis, the calculation, and the mathematics behind it, because that's the only thing that will be valued. Because if you think about opinion, if you think that guy who is running the business has got much better opinion and experience than you can ever have, because he is running it for many years, right? So that is the mathematician slash statistician. Whether you are able to convert the business opportunity that you saw into hard numbers basis all the data that you have looked at, and you have come up with um, results which are statistically significant and mathematically solid, and then you share those numbers. The third one is the hat of a technologist or a programmer. Why do you need this? You need this because a complete data scientist is not just about building models. A great data scientist looks at a business problem, builds a business case, and offers a recommendation or a solution, right? And the solution needs to be grounded on practicality. You cannot tell the business and recommend a solution which is so impractical it's going to burn $100 million a year, right? That's why you need to keep abreast with the latest technologies, the latest programming trends, the latest packages, or things like cloud computing and a lot of other things which help you to sit back and think, okay, as a business owner, I think this is a problem. As a statistician or a mathematician, I think the problem is big enough and is significant. As a technologist, I think there are 5 options, but option B is the best because it's more practical, costs less money, and is easier to do. And then comes the fourth, and one of the most critical, and that's where most of the data scientists fail, right? Because a lot of the data scientists are so technical that their communication skill is not up to the mark. Now, imagine this. You have found a great opportunity when you were using the business hat. You have built out the mathematical assumptions and the calculations, and the numbers are great. For example, it's going to make $5 million a year in benefit every year if it's implemented. And then as a technologist, you've suggested that, okay, we should build out a model which is going to predict if a customer is going to be dissatisfied, for example, and we can take care of that customer in a different way, for example. Now, the last part, if you fail to convince the business that this is important to do, no matter how great your analysis is, how great your model is, your model will never be implemented in production. And if your model is not implemented in production, if the change you recommended is not put by the business owners into the business, you are never going to see hard dollars. And if you're never going to see hard dollars, you're not really a great data scientist, are you? So to ensure that the company is putting your recommendation on the fast track and business owners are actually going in and trying that out in real business scenario, you need to be a master in communicating, convincing, negotiating, and influencing, right? Because your stakeholders are going to be way senior than you. So your influencing ability needs to be more than just a few numbers. You cannot expect people to trust you because you just put some numbers in a presentation and those numbers happen to be $5 million. You have to convince the person because he owns a business, and the risk of failure is on him and not on you, right? So these are the four hats that you have to wear as a data scientist if you want to be the top data scientist and the guy with the dollars on your CV.
Wow, that was very detailed information, and I'm pretty sure that the students are really thrilled and really thankful for all those for all your input. And we have a second question as well. So I have here, I think we had that question already. I think the next question is, well, we had that already. How do, 1 second. Yes. So how do data scientists bring real quantifiable impact to companies?
Right, and that is another great question. And I think this is less of a question and more of a rhetoric. This is something that should be in every data science professional's mind 24/7. If you're not thinking, how do I bring real quantifiable impact to my firm, then you're not going to be able to do it. All right. So a lot of times, data scientists start with the analysis, but if you want to bring real impact, you need to start with the balance sheet, the financial analysis. You need to be able to read a balance sheet, for example. You need to be able to um, talk to finance and figure out how the business is doing. You should be able to understand each cost center's heads and the different breakdown of every cost element of that business and every income element of the business. Understand that interplay, for example, and get an image of that whole company in your mind and analyze it. And then you will automatically begin to find out areas where you as a data scientist need to focus on. Also, you would always have a situation where you would jump into the analysis and forget about a lot of things that you need to do in the beginning. So I think to bring real quantifiable value to the company, you should be talking to the business a lot more. We don't do that enough sometimes as a data scientist, and it's very important. You need to have conversations regularly with the business owners, irrespective of whether you have a project going on. If he's your stakeholder, you should be in every significant strategy meeting that he's part of, even if at that present moment there is no data science agenda on the table, right? So you need to start thinking less of a technical data scientist whose job is to build models and predict. Given you have been given a data and you're just predicting, you need to stop thinking like that. You need to start thinking like a strategist, right? You need to start thinking like more. The more you start thinking strategy, the more you're going to bring real quantifiable benefit to the firm. And when you look at the best roles in data scientists that data scientists have, allow you the flexibility to find business opportunities for the firm. Uh, those are the roles that will allow you to bring real quantifiable benefits to the firm. If the chief operating officer or the chief strategy officer, the chief executive officer has a direct or indirect influence or hold on the analytics squad, and he sets out rules. For example, an automobile company in India, for example, Mahindra, right? A few years back, they wanted to improve their tractor sales in rural areas and by 5%. Now that is a strategy goal. If you as a data scientist think I'm going to take a back seat and let the strategy folks decide what they want to do, and then if they think they need a machine learning model, I'm going to build one, then you're not going to bring real quantifiable benefit to the company. What you need to do is get into that room with the strategist, talk to him about all the different solutions, all the different possibilities that analytics and data science can offer. And that is going to help the strategy team look at the problem in a different way. Suddenly, the strategy team has got 5 more solutions, which is based on data. So that is how you get closer to strategy, closer to bringing real quantifiable benefits. And then there's a big mind change required. There is a lot of teams who do back-end analytics, and the way they measure their performance is how many analytics you delivered in a year, right? That is not a great place to be. You should measure yourself as how much dollars you can make for the firm. If it's zero, it's zero. If it's 100 million, if it's 100 million. Don't try to distract the year-end review using information like I did 50 analysis in the year. If it doesn't bring hard value for the firm, it doesn't make any sense doing that analysis. So every analysis you do should have the why, and the why should be some amount of dollar value. If you have a laser focus on that, on every analysis you do, and you press your manager and you ask the why, why am I doing this? Keep asking it until somebody tells you that there are this many amounts of dollars to be made if we do this. That's the right why you should be working for. And that's why at the end of the year, when you walk into your performance evaluation, you should just say one sentence: I have made X million dollars of benefit to the firm. Full stop.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shubham. Thank you for your great questions. Thank you to the audience. Do we have another question? I'll just check one more time. But it looks like that those were like very, very much interesting questions. So yeah, I hope like that the audience is satisfied. Like I'm very satisfied by all your answers, Shubham. I thank you so much for being here with us, and that you took the time to really help the students from CIT to get to know what they can do to become successful. So yeah, so I would just say thank you so much. Hopefully see you soon. Maybe you will even meet someday one of our students who are watching right now, or the audience. And yeah, I wish you a wonderful evening and a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. It was very nice talking to Shubham. And yeah, I'm really thankful. And I guess you guys are also very thankful for the opportunity to listen to Shubham. And also, like, don't worry. Like, if your friends missed out on this session, they can still view it and apply for jobs during the post event that goes until the 13th of August. So make sure that you let them know. And whew, that was quite interesting. A lot of input. I think our brain cells like need a sip of water, a sip of coffee, or a bite of ice cream. And we'll take a 5 minutes break, and we will be back for another session soon. So I'll see you in 5 minutes. Well, okay, welcome back already to CIT Recorem Talks. We just finished an awesome session with Shubham Bhowmik on NLP. And yeah, I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, which is Jared Goodman, the Project Management Director of Energy Metrics from Toronto, Canada. Hello.
Hi,
Mr.
how are
Goodman.
you?
Jared, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Very, very good. It's a little earlier in Canada right now, huh? Did you just finish lunch or breakfast?
Yeah, it's 9:30 a.m.
Nice. So good morning. Good morning to you. Can I call you Jared?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. So yeah, I'm Dorothy, and I'm excited. Yeah, to talk to you about, or to listen what you have to say, and because it's early in the morning, so to get to know each other better, would you be up for a little game?
Sure.
Maybe. Oh, wonderful, thank you. So I would ask you a question, and you will just have to pick like one of the answers. It's very simple. So let's just start. So if you would go on a travel, would you pick beaches or mountains?
Beaches.
Beaches, same for me. Although mountains can also be very relaxing sometimes. But yeah, beaches, good answer. And okay, so you live in Canada. So this is going to be an interesting question. Do you prefer hockey or baseball?
I'm going to stick with beaches in summer, but I'm a baseball fan.
Baseball fan. Okay. So beaches and baseball. Okay, those are like two B's. Baseball. I also like baseball a lot. Let's like go to movies. Do you like books or movies?
I'm a movie fan. Haven't been to one in a couple of years, but definitely I like going to
Really? Really? Why was that? Okay, all right. We all know why. So are you more into rom-coms or thrillers?
movies. Definitely thrillers.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah, thrillers are very exciting. Keeps your blood pressure up. And okay, I have another question here. So are you more into Marvel or into DC?
Good question. Bit of a fanboy, but definitely Marvel movies. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, so that was it. Early in the morning, we know your preferences. So why are you actually here, right? So I guess like the audience and including me, we can't wait to hear your wide range of knowledge and experience on how it looks like to work in your shoes. And we're actually very delighted to hear you speak now, and the floor is all yours to make a little introduction on your person right now.
Thanks. I'll start with a little bit of a background on me and my kind of career path to where I am today. I studied at the University of Guelph in close to Toronto in Canada from 2001 to 2005. And after that, my career path took me into large distributed real estate management. So kind of different from how I got into IT, but I went more into the corporate real estate environment. I started in 2007 with a company called CBRE, CB Richard Ellis, which is a third-party management company for other large multinational corporations. And I was working for different financial institutions, managing their data center assets. So that was really at a young age, in my early 20s, I was thrust into a lot of high-tech facility management. In Canada, however, at that time, we were very, very, very far behind the American financial institution infrastructures. So one of my background working with CBRE was I was working more with the management infrastructure from like Wachovia Bank, Regions Bank, Bank of America, so very large American institutions. And one of the things that I wanted to do in my early career was bring better technology to operations to the Canadian banks. And so shortly after, in 2009, after I kind of grew a bit of a backbone and a voice in the corporate world, I joined Royal Bank of Canada, and I spent the next 8 years with them developing their data center infrastructure and backbone and operational technology. And one of the largest partnerships I made while working with Royal Bank was designing technology for their infrastructure stack for managing it, and did that with a company called Energy Metrics. And in 2015, I left Royal Bank of Canada and joined the ranks of Energy Metrics and took on designing software front ends for operating data centers or distributed real estate for retail for other clients around the world. And I've been with them ever since and doing our best to solve our clients' problems. And we are, so Energy Metrics is a custom engineering software, very centric on IoT now. But we do as well for some of the larger organizations, we'll do custom on-prem systems as well.
Great. So you sound like very passionate about it. I mean, if
Definitely.
Yeah, wonderful. This is what we need. We have to be passionate about our job and what we do, right? So it doesn't feel like work. I would just hop in to the first question then, because now we learned a lot about you, and now maybe you could tell us, when you wake up early in the morning, like now, what would a day in your life look like, besides like having an interview with me?
Yeah, so I think the routine of an IoT engineer is definitely get up and check everything. You want to make sure all of your back-end systems, everything is healthy. There's been no major alarms in the morning. I mean, you have when you're an IoT engineer, you build in all your personal automation. So you want to check all of your routines. You want to make sure that all of your systems, there's no failures, everybody's happy. All your devices all around the world, everything's talking, everything's ticking. Health is your system health, your own infrastructure, making sure that you and your team are ensuring that your stability is there, that you have your cloud infrastructure is strong, and you have the room for growth, because every day you're going to get your customers signing in and more and adding devices, and you just need to make sure that you've got the growth capability for them and that you remain scalable. So I think those are the first checks in the morning, and then it's like, all right, for somebody like me, it's a lot of time doing what we're doing right now on video calls, talking with clients, understanding their problems, working with them on solutions, being at the director or the executive level. You really do spend a lot of time connected with the people you're working with, your clients, who you're delivering the needs and the information and control for. So really, I think I spend probably more time with my clients than with my own company. But it's extremely important because, you're delivering key services. And as an IoT company, you're so embedded and ingrained into your customers' workflows that you really are just, an extended member of their team. So a lot of time, a lot of talking to people, and you just have to be okay with that. Okay, my biggest thing to make me okay with that, the Dale Carnegie course was a huge part of helping me as a young professional come out of my shell and be able to, open up and talk to people.
So talk to people and solving problems, right?
Yes.
So so in the end, would you say IoT is about solving problems, or maybe you can go more into detail what IoT exactly is and why it's so important besides problem solving?
Yeah, so IoT, I hate the name. It doesn't help anybody ever. But Internet of Things. So really, it's, for me, in my mind, it's the next level of edge computing. You're able to put smart, intelligent information gathering devices as far into the periphery as possible. You know, it's now edge computing and IoT are able to remove a lot of legacy infrastructure. So for myself, one of my big things, like, my is in facility and energy management, as well as, health and safety, and how do we do that with technology. One of the biggest things is, people think, when they think buildings and building controls, is, building automation systems. These large, heavy, older systems used to be pneumatics, and you would have like air tubes running everywhere that were controlling everything. And now, we're really seeing IoT coming into that market fold. We're seeing that large industries and are trusting, industrial IoT as well as commercial IoT, basically just different standards of build quality of devices when we talk industrial to commercial to residential. But really what IoT is being able to get a lot of data from the periphery, from the edge, and provide control or feedback without having huge stacks of architecture to get all the way there. If we think like 10, 15 years ago, large industries and companies, like SaaS solutions, service, when about 10 years ago, before I joined Energy Metrics, and working for large financial institutions, when you told a client, like, we should look at a SaaS service, and they were like, what? Touch software that's not on our enterprise backbone? No, that doesn't happen. So yeah, there's been lots, very, very big changes. But IoT really is, being able to put intelligent, smart control or information gathering devices on the periphery, where you would not normally be able to collect data or provide services to.
Okay, because you were like speaking of, you already like touched a subject of how it was 10 years ago. Maybe you can also go into detail in that, like how was IoT used in 2010? Okay, which would be like 11 years ago. How was it used in 2010, for example?
So in my personal experience, 10, 11 years ago, I was working for, federal banks, and the level of security and information security at a federal bank, there wasn't. There was a SaaS solution that a bank wanted to use, a piece of software. They were basically coming after the software companies and trying to find a way that they could in-house and run that image of that software, take it out of the cloud and put it into their own backend, into their own enterprise network, and run it there on their own hardware. And so, that was what IoT was in the corporate world 10 years ago, which really it wasn't. But now it's different. So we've really come to a point by about 2015, 2016, we started seeing where the value of SaaS solutions and what they could provide with IoT, that the large corporate infrastructure was finally like, okay, we can start to open up firewalls. We can find ways to connect to cloud services, and we can start getting this value. Because really, when you're looking at a SaaS company and you're saying, hey, I'm going to run your entire SaaS stack on my enterprise corporate network, there's no savings. You're just paying through the nose for a service and a convenience. But yeah, so really we started to see that led in my experience in early 2010 to huge bloat of IT services within large corporations. And then we started seeing, a few years after that, bit more acceptance of security protocols around SaaS services. And then we started seeing the shrink of the corporate enterprise networks so that they could, utilize these SaaS services and start saving like smaller companies can. So that was, really the evolution. Now today, they're so easy to white label and push new devices and new technology through corporate information security departments. You just have to be able to provide the security information and your keys. It's a much more open world now than it was 10 years ago. And I think it's all, it's all economics, and it's all money because of the overinvestment and overspend at the early, a decade ago. And I mean, the advancement of our IoT technology and capabilities, those companies, to maintain those tools, they have to run it just like everybody else, which is economically, and putting everything and buying every piece of software and putting it on your internal corporate network is not the way to go. So yeah, so we
okay. So
switch.
Excuse me. So you will be.
We've seen like a huge 180-degree turn over a decade in how large corporations treat SaaS and IoT services.
So, I mean, you're already you're kind of already telling the development, but how was IoT expected to evolve in 2015, and what was exactly accomplished?
Yeah, so 2015, what it was like, how can we use IoT for real world solutions, right? Before then, it was a lot of IoT was information gathering. So there was, because of the high security and the lack of trust before 2015, when we did use IoT, it was more one-way traffic. We would collect, we would watch, we would bring data in, and we would analyze that. But there was no two-way traffic going back for control, community, or sending data back to the periphery. In 2015, we really kind of were able to, around there is where information security at the federal corporate level really started opening up, and we were able to run SaaS solutions, IoT solutions, where we could provide two-way communication. We could collect, we could analyze, and then we could provide automation to provide control, or send a signal or a response back. So what that ended up doing was, that's when we were really able to achieve huge savings for clients. So things went from collecting information and understanding that information and making manual decisions on it and taking manual actions. In 2015, that next level of automation came into the IoT world at the corporate level. And that's where we started seeing, okay, we can send command back. And that's when we started seeing major savings. So for example, one example of a quick project would be, we've done retail control. So for a large financial institution, they would have retail centers like bank branches all over their country. And we would do all the energy, heating control, heating, cooling control for all their different systems. And that started where information would just come in. Now there could be automation to repair and change systems so that we're bringing in the most amount of energy savings possible. And it really took off. Oh, I think you're frozen, Dorothy. Okay. Hi, guys. Can you hear me? Technical difficulties. I'm sure we'll be back in just a second. Okay. So since I'll go to the next question, which is my last one was the trying to explain the change from 2010 to 2015 in IoT acceptance. And my next one is 2020. What about 2020? How did the skills and jobs perform for IoT? So really, the major changes that I saw between 2020 or 2015 and 2020, and where we're at now with 2020 is we have a much more capability with their back-end compute power. So between 2015 now compared to where we were 5 years ago, back-end compute is and scalability is huge, which means before in 2016 and 2020, from over those 5 years, we had more issues with big data, drop packets, ensuring continuity of data. Now, with the expansion of like Azure, AWS, Google services, every single service, cloud service provider out there really has IoT tool sets built in. I mean, our company, we're a Microsoft stack. We use Azure IoT services and IoT Service Center to help us monitor and maintain a lot of our built services that our team individually builds. But there's so much more tool sets provided by the large cloud providers for the IoT companies out there that it's, you really don't have those same scalability issues that we had 5 years ago, which means we can do more, we can do it faster, we can have more data, more devices, we can have larger devices with more points, monitoring points. And I think one of the biggest things that's also really enabled IoT, especially for large centers, is we have new networking technology, especially with wireless networking. LoRa Wireless, for example, LoRa, is really taking off right now and gaining a lot of industry acceptance all across the world and all across different industries. And a Wi-Fi gateway we know can have trouble, even covering a decent sized residence, where a LoRa gateway can reach upwards of 20 kilometers in range. LoRa networks are amazing in their capability for IoT, in that for edge devices sending small packets of data back and forth from the edge back to a central system, it's amazing. And you're able to cover huge swaths of land or large facilities with much lighter amounts of infrastructure. You can cover, you can put a fleet of IoT devices into a 500,000 square foot factory and have one gateway that costs you under $1,000 to manage all those devices. So the capability now, and you didn't have that 5 years ago. You certainly didn't have it 10 years ago. But yeah, so that's a big reality now. So it really enables what we can do in the physical realm to bring it back. So I think that's a huge difference that we see from 2015 to 2020. Now skills for jobs, and where does that fall in the IoT world? Really, the IoT world is a full technology stack. So you need people from networking backgrounds, you'll need infrastructure, you'll need your front end UI UX developers, and you'll also need a big part of it is control engineering. You need to understand the older style of control with real world devices and how you kind of bridge from the software compute, software only world into now I'm talking to devices in the real world that, they only talk like control languages. So you have to be able to get into that. Like, if you're talking to fueling systems, it's, you're talking a lot of Vita root protocols. If you're talking to building automation systems, you have a lot of like automated logic or there's those command and control and I guess discussion languages as well. So for example, at Energy Metrics, we have over, I believe we're about 450 different connector types of different types of infrastructure, real world infrastructure, hard infrastructure that we talk to and bring things back. Okay, yeah, not a problem. So I'm going to go to my next question, which is, it looks like you learn something every day. To keep up with the evolution of skills, what do you think is going to be the hottest IoT skills in 2025? So yeah, coming up as, students that are looking to get be young professionals in the IoT world, I would say there's 3 major areas to focus on. Data analysis is number 1. IoT is big data, and it needs developers that have an understanding of the the subject matter expertise. So you're always a cross between my subject matter expertise and my actual tool sets as data and analysis. And really your subject matter expertise can help you with building data analysis schemas, which leads into the second point, which is for us is machine learning and anomaly detection, and constant improvement of your algorithms and being able to do independent research. Hi, welcome back.
Yeah, hi. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. And I do hear you the whole time perfectly.
Great.
So go on.
Yeah, so and being able to do independent research, IoT really forces us to be able to think out of the box in order to solve problems. We have to come up with interesting new solutions. We have to find devices out there. Being able to do research, being able to be an independent thinker is huge. You have to go out there. You have to research, look at manufacturers all over the world, see what kind of sensors, what devices are being made, and how can I tie this back in? How can I use this? How can I talk to it? And how can I build it into my stack? So that's really important is, like staying up on the research, staying up and understanding what devices are in the marketplace and what their capabilities are and how we speak to them, and what information. And then, like I said at the beginning, where so much of my day is spent talking to clients and understanding their needs, and then bringing that back to my team and explaining to our developers and engineers what problems that our clients are facing so that we can start working on ideation of solutions and how those solutions would come together and work, right from the hardware that we would be buying and putting out to the infrastructure and services we'll need on our Azure cloud services. So there really is, IoT is, it brings people from all stacks. But yeah, data analysis is huge. IoT is collecting huge big data. Some of our clients are writing, when they're writing like in tiny little bits, but they have millions and millions and millions of data points out there in the world collecting information, and they can be writing 7-8 gigs of data in just point monitoring a day. So there's got to be a lot of thought about how to, and then retention. How much do we keep? How long do we keep? And enough that we keep looking at 10 years ago, we can still paint the good picture with just as much data as we can today. Data retention, big data is a huge problem. Data analysis, machine learning, those are really important tools. For us, because we do a lot of control work in facility control for energy reduction and carbon footprint reduction, as well as health and safety. That data and data retention is extremely important, and also being able to work with that data and provide major savings based on that data, or safety concerns, makes a huge difference. So those are the main skills that you're going to be looking for in the IoT world. Really, for me, that does a lot of hiring for people in our team. Creativity is a big part of it as well. I'm really looking for people that can always, do independent research, come up with solutions, think about, even the furthest reaching ideas. It's always amazing to test, and it's always good to see people coming up with new ideas and that means you're also open to understanding the ideas of the people within your team, which is very, very important.
So you actually also already answered the question, what a fresher needs to start a career in IoT, right? Unless you have something else to add, like how can they prepare for the future, and what more skills do they need to be in demand when the market reaches 2025, right?
Yeah, so really the biggest thing that I can say, and I'll give you an example from my career path, is when I decided, a lot of people were like, Jared, you were crazy and insane to leave being the client. You were the client, and you got to tell the IoT developers and IoT designers what you wanted done and how to do it. Why did you leave that to be on the other side of the fence? Well, the fact is that the way to succeed and the way to stay relevant is to be up to date in this industry. It changes so fast, and your large customers, you'll have a lot of them, and they don't invest capital every year into new infrastructure. So if you're managing a client, or you are a client, you may get, as a technology expert for a financial institution, you may get to refresh your technology once every 15 years. Which means that you're spending 15 years maintaining the technology that you've bought. And that's not always that much fun, maintaining legacy. And it certainly doesn't help young professionals stay relevant in the technology. So you may think that, hey, I'm using the newest, latest stuff, and I'm staying on top of it, but the rest of the world has moved on. And for me, that was the situation. I wanted to stay relevant in IoT and technology as a technology manager. And the best thing that I could do was actually be in the technology industry rather than a consumer of it.
Yeah, so it's all about evolving, moving forward the whole time, and also taking risks, I guess.
Yeah. Yep.
That's actually the best preparation our students can have. So yeah, thank you so much. It was very detailed,
Thank you.
and I think that the audience and our students like really learned a lot right now and have a better idea where to go. So yes, thank you, Jared, for like introducing us to IoT and what to do, to be successful, especially in 2025, right? And also now, and that's great. So, but okay. We should also give the audience have the opportunity to ask some questions. So I
Please.
have some questions here. And the first question would be like, how would you distinguish between pre and post COVID scenarios in the IoT industry landscape? Good question.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
Yes.
I honestly, when COVID hit, it completely changed IoT for us. Because we do a lot of distributed real estate command and control, energy reduction is our primary goal. And when COVID came, I'll be honest, every capital funded project that I had from every single client was canceled or put on hold overnight. When lockdown went in, everything stopped. And we had to think, and the great thing about being in an IT company and in a small company is your ability to pivot. You can drop what you're doing and you can start and you can pick something else up and you can react to the market. And that's what we did. And so we focused a lot of, really the focus went from energy savings and maintenance savings and how do I operate and lower the cost of business for us, as that's what our clients were saying, and that's what we always provided, right? We're lowering your cost of operations, and we're doing it in a green way. COVID came, and the thought of the environment and energy savings went out the window. It was, how do I just stay open? What can I do? How do I maintain a healthy and safe environment for my employees and my customers? And the people that were investing in IoT went from, like our classic corporate customers to much more governments. And, and the idea of what do we do with IoT changed from energy savings and becoming a greener company to how do I make it a more health and safety conscious company? So, air quality became a huge thing, and IoT can do a lot of work around air quality. However, that really tied back in to what we already did with command and control for HVAC and environmental controls within buildings. So what we were able to try and do, and have done it to great success over the last year, was include health and safety and air quality into controls. So controls went from being energy centric, how I'm controlling to provide the best internal air quality with the lowest energy cost to provide that. And now it went to, I'm providing the best air quality with the most amount of safety in mind. So that means that, we can really control how many people are in a space, and we can understand that through CO2 readings. People breathe, so we can know how, and understanding blueprints and space sizes, we can understand how congested something is. We can bring in fresh air, we can flush the air, we can ensure that, we can measure how many particles are in the air, and whether those are liquid particles or they are mass and solid particles. We worked with government agencies across the country to reopen facilities, and it's done a great job. To be honest, 2021 has been the busiest year of my professional career, and it's continually taking off just because of how IoT can come in to and provide these services to all of these countries and corporations and governments, and legacy control systems to do the same thing. You're looking at about 400% increase for legacy control systems compared to IoT technology. And just that alone, and that's just off of your initial spend to get in, not even looking at your recurring and system maintenance and upkeep, which is still so much less with IoT than legacy control, command and control systems. So really, COVID gave IoT a huge platform on which to shine and help us, start getting back to a regular lifestyle, which for us has been huge. And one of the big things, a lot that you got to think, like, there's schools, there's court systems, there's old age homes, all of these public facilities need to have acceptable living standards. And we found through the COVID pandemic, especially here in Canada, that a lot of them didn't have it. So yeah, that's where we've gone, and that's how COVID has changed this industry.
Yeah, so you were able kind of to save lives, let's say, or like to be a big part of it. Yes. Wow. Very interesting. Very necessary. So, the next question kind of also is quite interesting in this topic, because when you think about health and kind of saving lives, then it also like comes to money, right? So how is it that companies, like how so when they use IoT, how is it that companies use IoT to save money, and they must pay for equipment and SaaS, and how does it work?
Yeah, that's another really good question. It's really smart. How does this all work in the real world, right? Like, how do people afford it? Where do the savings come from? How do we make business cases around this? And it's multifaceted. So when a company, if you are a company and say you run clothing stores, for example, let's just pick something out of the blue. So clothing stores sounds good. You have a fleet of clothing stores, so you have to pay to heat and cool those clothing stores. If it's in India, you're probably paying for a lot more cooling than heat. But in Canada, we pay a lot for heat too. But we're heating them, we're cooling them. And if we can do that, like historically in the world, once we get to building sizes that are under 25,000 square feet, which actually makes up over 80% of the buildings like on this earth, most of them don't have major control systems. They don't have the infrastructure. And really, this is the bulk of buildings that we have. It's only the super huge factories and massive 500,000 plus square foot facilities that really get investment of major control systems. So a lot of these stores run off of retail centers are just running off of household thermostats and household air conditioners and heaters. They're not very efficient devices. They're not smart devices. So being able to put in a fleet of IoT thermostats or IoT temperature sensors can really help you gain control of everything. And once you are able to set standards of operations for a certain climate, you'll really start seeing, and you stop letting people walk up and you here we have the joke of, it's the dad and he's smacking the kid's hand when you touch my thermostat, don't touch my thermostat. So it's the same thing there. As long as once we start taking control away from people to be able to go up and change things, and we put, generally accepted just set points and we leave things there, and we just maintain that if somebody does go up and change something, we change it back. We shut things off during non-business hours. Once you're doing that, we're seeing that companies are saving millions of dollars. On top of that, there's the energy savings are real, and the energy savings alone will pay off IoT installations with under a 3-year return on investment, ROI, for your projects. However, maintenance savings, when you actually have maintenance workers that can make repairs remotely through your IoT application, when they can go in and you don't have technicians driving trucks all over the country to get to one store to change a thermostat, now you're having major real savings. You have a maintenance company that isn't charging you $1,000 to send a technician to change a temperature somewhere. You have you're also not contributing to those fossil fuels being burned and the waste being put out into the environment for those vehicles running and technicians and services. So that's it. That's really where companies are saving, and they're saving so much that everybody. I haven't done an IoT installation where we haven't done more the next year. So it ends up becoming like, they pick a certain percentage of their real world facilities to upgrade with IoT systems. And every year they continually upgrade more and more and more of those facilities based on the real savings that they've had the year before. So that way, and that's how companies can afford it and how they save money. So yeah, it's really energy and maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah, like very efficient, for sure. And this is a good thing also, like during Corona, like that everything, like we don't have to be in one place. Yeah. So, but also in the last question, can you give another example of a corporate IoT system your team has designed outside of energy, health, and safety, or mission critical businesses? And so I think, yeah.
A really good one that's like this, was our office life workplace solution. Obviously, before COVID, and like for me as well, I spent many years in the high-rise office towers of the financial district of Toronto, and I hated it. How many times would you come into your office and we know that there's no room, there's no seats, there's no desks anywhere, nobody can really, you can't find a place to work. So one of the biggest neat IoT systems that we built and designed was for office life. And the other thing about IoT is that we can pull a ton of different devices doing different things into a central glass plane platform. So for one large organization, we designed and rolled out an office IoT system. So it did everything from desk hoteling. So we would have infrared sensors under the desks, and it would know if there was somebody sitting at a desk or not. And when they left, and there was a cold seat for 15 minutes, there would be an integrated camera that would be in the ceiling space, and it would look at that grid space and make sure that there was no bag or briefcase or computer left behind. And if the desk was clear and the seat was cold, then that desk would go up, for the next person that walks in. When they swipe their card, they would be directed there. So our goal was to increase the FTE, which is a full-time equivalent. So one person full-time, 40 hours a week in an office. They wanted to be able to go from one full-time equivalent per desk to 1.4 full-time equivalents per desk. So that means every desk would have to get 40% more utilization by another person in a day. So we would do IoT systems to look at their booking systems in their exchange. So they could look at once somebody had booked a desk, the system would then look and see, well, when that seat went cold and the infrared sensor sees that there's no body there, it could look at your Outlook and say, oh, this person's now booked 3 floors away in a meeting room for the next 2 hours. We're going to release the desk, and the next person walking in can get a space. Even more so, they would do, we've done IoT for how many people, like when I worked in the financial district, sometimes your meeting would come up and you've got 5 minutes from when your reminder comes up, and your meeting is in a building that's 1.5 kilometers away on the other side of the financial district in another office tower, and you're basically running to get there. So one of the big things that we wanted to mitigate those people getting lost in these massive companies, and massive offices across different locations within a single city. So we integrated GPS and internal positioning systems, so internal mapping systems. So your phone application, your IoT application, when your meeting came up, would give you a seamless GPS walkthrough from your desk through the interior of the building, and then right out onto the street, into the next building, and through the interior of that building to the office room you had to be in. And it would take you to any amenities that you required. So washrooms, copy rooms, so whatever you were looking for, that it was, it simplified the life of the corporate employee living in the city workspace. So that kind of problem has gone away right now because of COVID. And here, at least where we are in North America, most office buildings are not habitable, or they are habitable, but we're not back in office places yet. Slowly. And right now most places are on rolling schedules. So, half the people are there Tuesday and a Wednesday, and the other people are there on Monday and Fridays. So, that's not a big issue right now, but that is something completely outside of, health and safety, energy savings, to give you an idea of how IoT can be used.
Wow. Very, very much efficient. And that just makes me, and I think also the audience, realize that we all, I would say. Wonderful. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon. There was quite a lot, but really interesting information about IoT. And I think we already, those are all the questions from the audience. And really, our eyes and our ears were glued to everything you had to say. And thank you so much. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much, Sharon.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, stay healthy, please. And I wish you a really successful and great rest of the day in Toronto.
Thank you. You too. Have a great evening,
Wonderful.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was quite a lot of information, but very much interesting. Now, I want to work for all those companies right now. Saying that, like I said in the beginning, let's revisit the live event analytics to find out the latest count on jobs. So, CIT, what do we have to offer here? So now you just see like the three of us you just saw today. So do I see? I think I see an improvement for sure. So here we all see all the attending companies down here. And if we go a little up, do we see all the analytics right now? So I hope you guys can all see that, all the improvements down here, like how many job applications have been set, and if the audience also matched all the skills. So I think that we improved a lot. And I would just say, like, having some of the latest skills in the market. So all the talks were very much necessary, actually, to improve your skills and to know where to head in the future, and yeah, how to update all your skills. And yeah, I'm very glad that all of you joined. And I'm looking forward for the next sessions. And I would say all the best, folks. But most importantly, I would say thank you, Mr. Bellew, and all the faculties of CIT for supporting our initiative and giving this opportunity for your students. You guys really rock. And so that brings us to the end of today's Recorem Talks. Follow our social media to be updated on our events, companies, and jobs. We will soon have many remote international internships and job opportunities for you to discover. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun and had some new insights and inspirations. And I would say have a great day or have a good night if you're not too excited to sleep. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.